Have you figured out your niche? Are you helping adding value to other people's lives? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira Zahabi, your niche navigator, coming to you with another episode, another guest who we showcase on our show. You know, this show is all about niches and how we got there, and somebody's inspirational story is going to motivate others that are sitting on the sidelines. So my guest today is Thomas Biebers, all the way from California. Thank you so much for waking up early and joining us today. Thank you, Mr. Biebers.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
You are welcome. And, you know, Mr. Biebers, I understand you are a filmmaker.
That is correct.
So we talk about niches in this show, and we don't pick one niche, we pick all people from various niches. And we all are curious about what you said was your series, Generation to Generation. That's what I put on the announcement. So we want to talk about that as well. And for all of those people that are joining us, please go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to this channel, because you know what? This segment could change somebody's life, and that's the purpose of it. So without further ado, welcome to our show, Mr. Biebers.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, my name is Thomas Biebers. I live maybe 20 minutes outside of San Diego in a town called Murrieta here in California. And been out here since '69, and I'm 50 some years old, so you can do the math there how long I've been here. And you know, just having fun out here, you know, living the life I want to live, and proceeding from there. I have a wife, you know, 2 kids, my 3 grandchildren. I'm lucky that my mother's still alive, so you know, small family, but on my wife's side it's kind of large. She has a large extended family, but as far as myself, it's a small, immediate little family, and we're just happy.
Well, my greetings to your mother as well, because I lost mine when I was 12. So I know what precious things mothers are.
Yeah.
So you said you're a filmmaker. How did you get to your niche? You know, this is your niche. And what kind of films do you make?
It kind of fell into my lap. Most of my career was in front of the camera. Oh. I did a lot of work in front of it. And my father, how it really got started is my father was a Holocaust survivor.
Okay.
And he fought in the Jewish resistance. And we wrote a book about him and so forth, that we were going to actually make a documentary about him. But then he started getting sick. And he was excited about doing it. He was, oh my gosh, I get to sign my autographs, and he was going to be famous. He was all looking forward to it. But then he got ill, and obviously I couldn't put him on camera looking the way he did. And so he passes away. But he wanted me to keep the story going. And then we decided, and out here in Murrieta, there were some other survivors that I wanted to interview. But age not being their friend, they passed away within weeks of each other, about getting ready to film. But one of them on his deathbed, he was in hospice. He said, well, I have an idea for you. And another person said the same thing. He said, why don't you talk about the 2nd generation, the 3rd generation survivors? The children and grandchildren. And I didn't think much of it. And I said, okay, well, that's okay. And I went home and told my wife. And she said, well, she belongs to this group called the Children and Grandchildren Holocaust Survivors on Facebook. I had no idea even existed. And my wife's Catholic, so I hadn't even no clue anything like that even existed. So I went on there, floated the idea about doing an episode series with children and grandchildren survivors, having them tell their stories of their respective parent or grandparent. Within about half hour, I got about 1,000 to 5,000 emails from around the world.
Oh, wow.
Everything from Mexico City to the Philippines, South Africa, and everywhere in between, people who want to tell their family stories. So that's how the series kind of got started. And I played with it, worked around with it, got the funding to get the first one out. And obviously the first episode was about my father was easy. And we've had multiple awards on it, and now we're proceeding, going further on additional episodes.
So is this on YouTube or I know
Well,
you
it's
said
on YouTube
one
now.
section.
Our goal is to have it get picked up. We're working on certain avenues. I won't tell who they are, but we're working on trying to get it picked up nationally. But right now, it is currently on YouTube. The first episode is on YouTube, and I can provide a link for that later.
Oh, so this is awesome. So my question is that so many questions right now. So let me ask you this: when you sent out this message, first of all, you said there's thousands of emails. We know that the Nazis were ready to eradicate the Jews, and the Holocaust was just something that was it was meant to wipe out certain things. But then, how do we have survivors all the way from Mexico and Philippines, like you mentioned?
Well, the Philippines, as I started researching the Philippines, for example, when before the war started, Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were allowing some of the Jews to get out of Germany. They're allowing them to escape, not escape, but to migrate other places. Along the way, unfortunately, a lot of countries, including the United States, would not accept them. So a lot of them had to get back on their boat and head back to where they came from. The Filipino president at the time welcomed the Jews, the refugees, into the Philippines, and he opened up a certain, I think, somewhere on the palace where they could reside. And then, of course, World War II starts, and of course the Japanese are on the side of the Germans. But even when the Japanese conquered the Philippines, they kind of left the Jews alone.
Ah, okay. So, I mean, there's very interesting facts, right? There's a lot of families around the world that has been affected. And do you find that the residue still lives within the people?
What I've noticed is one thing, the survivors that I've interviewed, most of the survivors, not all of them, a lot of them are, I would say, relatively optimistic about life. They don't really view themselves as victims, and they kind of carry that over to their children and offspring. Sometimes the children and offspring are a little more reserved than their family member. The offspring are a little more resentful, I guess, is the word, than their father or their grandfather or grandmother or mother, depending on what the case is. In my father's case, my father fought the Jewish resistance, and that's what he wanted to have told. So we have people who have various stories about how their family members survived. The series is not about the Holocaust per se. It's about how they survived after it. You see a lot of TV and movies that talk about the Holocaust, and that we all know about what happened there. The brutality and everything, but what happens after 1945? Who were these people, and how did they live their lives after the fact? That's what the documentaries are about. We touch a little bit about the war itself, but then how they went on to live their lives, and it kind of pertains to today. One thing when we're making the films, documentaries, people say, well, you need to tie it into today's world, because a lot of millennials and out there, well, why does this affect me? It happened 75 years ago. Why is it important to now? The reason why it's important now, and we touched on all the films we're going to do, is that if it's actually happening around the world as we speak now.
True.
So to ignore it as something that is in the history, it blinds you to what's really going on now. All you got to do is turn on the TV or watch the news, and you'll see atrocities from the United States all the way to Africa and every place in between.
No, it's true, because I'm from Kenya as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you've seen part of it where people are asked to go home, and it's like, we were born here, so where is home? But the fact is that this residue resides. But I like the fact that many people do not stay and simmer in the sauce, if you will, and try to make the best of whatever life has given them and live a life instead of saying, I'm a victim.
Well, and also too, survivors themselves never really advertised them. For example, my father wasn't the resistant. If he had a great sense of humor, if you saw him, you would have any inclination of who he was or what his past was. Only once they get to know you really well did he would explain it, and only as it pertained to the Jewish resistance, I mean the Jewish people fighting back. And that's how he would only talk about that. And survivors usually talk about something real specific. They don't talk about it really in depth as to what really transpired.
So do you know the whole story that happened with your father? Everything, to minute details. Did he put it somewhere in where he could leave a legacy?
Yes. Well, the film. One. Number two, we have a book called Not Without a Fight. And that book is a complete story about how his childhood. He was born into wealth, very wealthy family in Warsaw, Poland, and of course, they use that influence a little bit to help him throughout the early stages of the war. But then, as it progresses, he moves in the ghetto and takes up arms against the Germans. So that's how it progressed. But it's completely in the book, and it's available on Amazon.com. Not Without a Fight. It's written by myself and my I'm the contributor. I have a main writer who wrote the book, D.W. Duke. And
Okay, so you are a author and now and a filmmaker.
Yes.
So before this project fell into your lap, what did you do before? You said you were in front of a camera. So.
Yeah, I did in front of camera, TV commercials, things of that nature, and it just kind of I had fun in front of the camera, but then. As it progressed, now I'm behind it, and I don't think I could ever go in. Well, I've gone in front a few times, but I enjoy being behind it. I can see my vision coming to life versus someone else's. When you're in front of the camera, you're acting out someone else's vision, someone else's ideas. Now behind it, it's actually the other way around. And doing documentaries, I prefer doing documentaries than I would any type of other genre.
So. You've taken this project and brought it to light. How does your story pertain to people that are going through COVID, right? We're going through COVID right now. So what do you tell people in that, in this era to pursue, who are trying to pursue their dream, but are completely disappointed or have lost hope?
To begin with, one, you can't lose hope in life. Using the terminology from the survivors themselves, you can't lose hope because everything is temporary. Everything in life is a temporary situation. At some point, the COVID will be over. They'll have a vaccine or something, and it'll be over. Then what are you going to do? You can't continue to use COVID or anything else as an excuse to not do something. There's ways around it. For example, we filmed my episode during the COVID crisis. We filmed it. So there's ways in which we did it. We took advantage of certain things and we filmed safely, but you just have to proceed and move forward. And actually that worked to my benefit because I'm a small little production company. All the big guys were shut down, but I filmed. And now I have networks interested in my project because everyone else was quiet while I proceeded to move forward. So you just
go ahead.
Yeah. So you got to look at the positive. Here's a good example. Jewish people always say that there's only two things in a day you cannot control. You cannot control the sunrise and sunset, but everything else in between you have full control over. And how you exercise that is up to you.
Awesome. No, I like that. But this is a very good point when you say that, take action and take time to figure out. There's always a workaround, right? There's always something that you can do that's a workaround that all you have to do is put your mind to work and the creativity will flow. Do you agree?
Yes. And I will say that COVID, I used to a little bit to my advantage. Like I said, when the big guys are shut down, what are they doing? I know like the Warner Brothers and the Paramounts, they're struggling to survive. But I use this time, I don't have the overhead. So I was able to get some more creativity in there, do some more research, line up future interviews, get everything in place. So when I'm able to film, all I got to do is jump in, turn the cameras on, and off we go. So you can use the time to your advantage. You can use the time to use your creative skills. Things that you might not have normally done on a very busy or fast-paced day. And when the virus is over, I'll be able to just continue where I was and move further ahead.
So, a thought came to mind while you were talking. Many people will say, well, you were in front of the camera, so you had what it takes. You had the connections, you had the equipment. For somebody who is on the sideline, who's trying to figure things out, what should they do if they want to pursue their dreams? And not only in film industry, but everything. I mean, for some people, it's just startup money is a problem. So what do you do then?
Never give up. Never, ever, ever give up. That's what I'll tell you. When I first started getting in front of the camera, many, many years ago, people said, "Oh, you'll never make it. You'll never succeed." You're going to have a lot of that. Even now, people on the outside, they come with an idea, and they'll hear people say, "Oh, that's a stupid idea. That's dumb. It'll never work." And why people fail is they listen to them. They believe that that's their. I always feel that other people's how would I say?
The people's poison is not yours.
Other people. There you go. Other people's poisoning of the waters of your ideas. It gives people an excuse not to try. Well, it won't work because such and such told me it won't. Well, use that as your advantage. Okay, well, it's going to work, and I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for anybody else. And then once you do it for yourself, then your success will come. I know money's an issue. I know money. It takes money to proceed, but there are ways in which you can do it. For example, the stimulus money that came in. That's what I used to finance the film. So there's ways in which you can do things, and it's all in the mind. If you want something bad enough, and your dream is you want your dream to succeed, you will find a way.
Because the reason I ask is this: right now I'm doing a challenge with one of the high-end coaches, and they tell you to go out and do stuff, right? There's homework to be done, but there's people who still stand on the sidelines who have some kind of an excuse. And my job as the niche navigator is, I know you have the skills. All you have to do is be creative. And either you are an one of my mentors says, either you are an action taker or an action faker.
Well, that's what it is. All you have to do is just take that first step. It's that first step that's the hardest. It's the first step that's the most challenging. And once you do that, it's just like a baby walking for the first time. If the first step is always difficult for them, but yet they build the strength and the stamina, and they keep going and going and going until they can run down the street. Same thing, whatever you want to do in life. The first step is always the most challenging. Once you start and start working forward, and I mean, there'll be stumbles along the way. You will fall and scrape your knee, but the best, the most successful people are the ones that actually get up, dust themselves off, put a Band-Aid on their knee, and move forward.
So what you're saying, that even if you fall and scrape your knee and you get your pant caught up in a nail or somewhere, just keep going, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but you can always get a new pair of pants.
And so so there are some people who start, and I don't ask all these questions just because there's things sometimes you have to click in the head, but there's people who just start and then they have so many hurdles. So is this a norm? Because I've never interviewed a filmmaker before. So I just want to ask you.
There's always hurdles in the film industry. It's a very difficult business. There's competition. There's people who think your work is stupid. There's people, and I always look at that as jealousy. You see, I always say, okay, all right. The way I look at it, if you're watching my film enough to critique it or to hate it, hey, one more eye on my film is better for me. So, if you're taking the time out to criticize me, I take it as a compliment. That your day is so filled to critique me, okay, then you were watching me. And
so people who critique you are watching you, but they hate you because you're that action taker.
Yes, and they're seeing in me what they could be. But they're afraid to take that chance. Take that chance to do what like I said, when I was in front of the camera, was TV commercials, and people said, "Well, why'd you do that?" Well, there's several ways you can do it. In film and in acting, for example. I could have sat around and waited for the big TV series to come along, or who knows, that might not ever happen. But I figure, hey, well, TV commercials and things, I can actually start working. While everybody else was sitting around waiting for the big gig, I'm with SAG-AFTRA. I got my union card. While a lot of other actors were sitting around waiting for the big job, I was working.
Which commercial did you work in?
I was in Dell's, Dell, a lot of local projects, but that was one of the bigger ones. I did T-Mobile and a few other things. So some I can't say because of contractual issues, but those I can.
Oh, okay. So, now, Mr. Biebers, how do people find you?
Well, the easiest way is probably, I know I have Twitter, but I can't think of the handle right off the bat. But probably the easiest way is Facebook. Facebook, and also email. I'll give you that. Is TB, T as in Tom, B as in boy, AND like and TB at Gmail. TB and TB Films at gmail.com. TB and TB Films at gmail.com.
Oh, you okay? And once this video airs, can you please put that in the?
Yeah, I'll give all the links to my Twitter and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't use Twitter as much, so I don't remember the link as well.
That's fine. But here's the thing. One last thing for the viewers who are sitting on the sidelines, who are not pursuing their dreams.
Just put that step forward. Just live your dream. Remember, I always say this: if you don't live your dream, somebody else will live your dream for you. All
right. See, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't live for yourself, somebody's going to live it for themselves, and you're going to stand there still on the sidelines wishing. A long time ago, my professor told me that the richest place on the world was the cemetery, because so many dreams have died with those people that are buried there. Don't make that happen for you. So go ahead, take the first step. And it doesn't matter whichever profession you go into. These days we have a phone and you can film on the phone and you could be famous there, right?
That's correct.
And so we're not talking about going into the film industry. What I'm saying is you have an idea. You have a desire to make this idea work. So make it happen. Just make it happen. Even though it's not perfect, just do it.
That's true. Remember, the sunrise and sunsets.
Yeah, and take the Nike logo and just do it. And then, you know what happens is magic happens, because we are not going to have a fairy godmother to come and change and fix our plans and give us a Cinderella dress. That doesn't happen in real life. We have to work for it. So work for the dreams that are sitting on the sidelines. Thank you so much, Mr. Biebers. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you. And one day when I'm in San Diego again, in California, I'll look you up. We'll have a cup of coffee.
That works.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi. If you enjoyed our show, please share and subscribe to this channel. And for more content, please join our Facebook group.